Check it out. Imagine hearing a chord progression and actually knowing where to go in that moment. No longer guessing, no longer thinking you're making a right choice, no longer being afraid to play a wrong note. In this video, I'm gonna walk you through the exact steps that I went through to go from not knowing what I was doing, playing over what chord progression or what key I was in, to knowing exactly what I was doing, so I'm now able to improvise and compose and create licks and riffs in any key that I want on demand. So if you're new to this channel, you're probably wondering who I am. My name is Ty Keller. I'm an actively gigging guitarist. I just played a show with Joe Nichols and Casey Donahue about a week ago. So this is what I do. I go out and I play shows and I get paid. I've also been teaching locally for over a decade. I've been playing guitar for 20 years. I play with a lot of big bands, and I'm releasing 2 songs, demos, every week for the next 3 years. And I'm in this music business right now, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I have a whole other channel where I talk about what I believe is going to be the future of music and sort of what I've discovered, and sort of I've been getting these things validated just in general. And that's really, in a nutshell, it's being a hero. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about giving you complete and total freedom on the fretboard. I'm going to explain to you what it is, but first I need to tell you how I discovered it. It was 2012. I was working at a store called Best Buy, and they actually had a musical instruments department. They no longer do, but there was a time where Best Buy actually had a musical instruments department. So I was working there at the time, and I was actually building my studio out. It's the same desk and the monitors. I have a different interface now, but I was building out my studio, keyboard and everything, and I was trying to figure out how all this music stuff connected. Because I love music. It's what I want to do. And I was like, there's a saying that man's greatest burden is unfulfilled potential. So I didn't want to live with any regret, and I still don't want to live with any regret. So that's why I do this, and I'm not going to quit doing it. And there's just a fire inside to create this music. So I was like, okay, what's the next step? What do I need to learn? I know the scales, I can play pretty fast. I've written songs before, so I can write songs, but not, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know my instrument. So I wanted to know my instrument. So I went online. That's right, I pulled up some things, and I found a theory course. It taught the CAGED system, and it taught the chord theory, and it also taught the intervals, everything, right? It had everything in there. But I was like, okay, this is great, but how do I actually connect this in making music? Because in the back of my head, I knew, like, I can know this, but without, how do I apply this? And I had nobody to really ask questions other than the materials. So one thing led to another. And in 2016, I started teaching guitar. I got laid off from my job. And I was like, all right, now I got to learn this, because I had students coming to me with questions about how does this stuff work? How do you connect the dots? And I was still playing guitar. I've been playing guitar for 13, 14 years at this point. So I could play them, I could show them the basics, but they'd come to me with questions. So I was like, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find out. So in 2017, I went to this conference in Chicago. And this was 3 or 4 years after I started the music theory and started learning some of this stuff. So I had started putting the pieces together, and I had started to have to figure this out because I was teaching it. And they say, if you want to get really good at something, you got to learn how to teach it. I'm not suggesting that you learn how to teach it, but I'm just saying, you know, there is a market for that. If you are a professional musician or guitar player and you wanted to start a teaching business, you can definitely do it locally. You just got to stay persistent. Anyways, I was at this event and I was listening. I went there with open ears because I was training for like 2 weeks. I was trying to become a better teacher, not just a better guitar player. And there was this guy who was talking about being a virtuoso guitarist. I was like, oh, I never really thought about being a virtuoso guitarist. I just always kind of wanted to shred, which I could shred at the time, but it was garbledy-gook. I didn't know where to go and what to do and all this stuff. So I had a serious intention, because that was another thing, is I really wanted to know my instrument, not only just to teach my students, but I wanted to know it for myself. And then if I knew it for myself, I could show my students how to do this as well. So I was listening. One of the first pieces of information I got was pattern 4 pentatonic, because I already knew about pattern 1 pentatonic, and I was able to use that. That's all I really knew how to do pretty much when it came to making solos or just guessing and figuring things out. And I was sick and tired of guessing, and I was sick and tired of playing wrong notes. So I was like, all right, pattern 4 pentatonic. And this came from Eric. He's a really good teacher. I think he has a YouTube channel. You should go check him out. So Eric said that. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Check. And then I was learning some other things. I was like, oh, I could play the major scale horizontally? Never even thought about that before. I just learned the modes vertically. I was like, okay, that's cool. And then I was working on this other piece of music called Eugene Strick Bag, and I was learning how to do these arpeggios. And then I've learned this new arpeggio. It was on the 4th pattern, pattern 4 root. I was like, okay, that's interesting. Pattern 4, and I'm just, instead of starting on the E, I start on the A root. I was like, oh, crazy. And then it finally hit me. I remember this specifically. This man named Joe Walsh, he showed me this exercise. It was a triad. It was a sweep drill with a legato and a vibrato. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's like that light bulb moment where the light bulb came off. I was like, what if I just got rid of the E, the A, and the D string, and I just navigated using these triads or these chord tones? And then I realized there's 3 of them. And I learned it in A minor, but I'll get to it in a second here. But I had this moment. I was like, this is crazy. How is this possible? How did I miss this? You just got to cut the guitar half horizontally, and just when you're navigating for lead guitar, to navigate, just find the 3 chord tone spots and their inversions. And then I found out, because I was like, I got to test this out to make sure it works. So I brought it home and I tested it. And I wrote 100 songs with the other songwriter. I got back together with the lead singer of a band I was in that had broken up 7 or 8 years before. And I was doing it and I was just ripping it. I now had some extra potent sauce. Now it wasn't as potent. Now it's super hyper potent, because a little bit later I became, about 2 or 3 years after using this and writing songs, I got to the point where I no longer had any blocks. And I completely understood this stuff. I mean, not 100% complete, because I'm always still a student, right? I'm always learning things. But this no longer eluded me. None of the music theory eluded me. I knew how to come up with riff licks. I no longer had any blocks. It's like I had become like a Jedi or something. I had the power of the Force behind me, because it's true freedom. It's like, it's really beautiful. And I hope that if you have an aspiration to get to that point on guitar, that you totally can. And all I'm here to show you is what works for me. And you might have to go on a different path, but this is what works for me. And I just navigate using chord tones. Now, the system. It's very important, because you can use, let me actually just bring out the circle fish, because now we're going to get into the meat. So C, you see here at the top, that key, C, doesn't have any sharps or flats. It's all the white keys on the piano. It's very important. And I made the relative minor super small on this wheel. This is a kind of a custom wheel, hybrid wheel I fused with somebody else's idea. And the relative minor is super small because it's very important to start memorizing the relative minor using the system that I use. Because the system is this. 1, you must establish the tonic. And what do I mean by tonic? This key is C, has 6 chords in it. If you started on a C, you'd call that Ionian. If you started on a D in the key of C, you'd call that Dorian. If you started on an E, you'd call that Phrygian. If you started on an F, you'd call that Lydian. And if you started on G, you'd call it mixed Lydian. And if you started on an A minor, it'd be Aeolian. Okay? So step 1, you have to establish what the tonic is. Because I could start on an F chord, but the tonic is C. And that's what F Lydian is. And this is the way I think you should learn the modes, by the way, not the other way they teach it. So, C is the tonic. So that's step 1. Step 2 is you got to find the relative minor. For C, it's A minor. After that, you got to find the touch points, which are those 3 triad positions. You could do the major ones, but either way, you still have to figure out the tonic. The minor ones are easier because they're on the E, the B, and the G string, the top 3, higher 3 strings. And I was like, that's when it started to click. And what's so beautiful about them is they link. So that leads us into the 3, 5, 7. So once you find the touch points, you got 3. Now you're going to find these touch points, the ones that I use in the system. It works in every key, all these keys. It works. You find the 3, the touch points, right? You start there. That's how you navigate. That's how you think, right? It's using the rule of 3s, which is what they use in comedy, art, all sorts of things. The hero's journey has 3 acts. Music has 3 choruses. Comedians say their best joke 3 times. If they say it anymore, the audience supposedly hates the performance if they break the rule of 3. It's just 3 points. It's not 7 modes. It's not 5 pentatonic. It's just 3 positions, okay? When you find those 3, then you link the 5, which is the pentatonic. I know I just said there's 3 spots, okay? Really, you could say there's only 2, because that's what your heroes are doing. At least my heroes are just, and I've done this because I've analyzed every solo for the last 5, 7 years, and they're doing this. You have but 3 spots, 3, okay? One of them is linked to pattern 1, which is the home base, I call it. One of them is linked to pattern 4, which is the outpost. And one of them is linked to the bridge, which connects the home base to the outpost. Now, it might sound confusing, but pattern 1 and pattern 4 are basically linked to two of these chord tones. There's one more chord tone though, which is a bridge, which is a super powerful position. And I use it all the time. So you need to know about that one too. And that's it. And I could get my guitar and I could show you, but I do that in the course, which I have 100% free, which you can go check out, okay? So you have 3, which is how you find the spots. After that, you just sync it up with the pentatonics, which hopefully you know the pentatonics, and it's just pattern 1 and pattern 4, and pattern 2 is the bridge. But I like to use the more modal version of the bridge, which is super easy because it's the same position. You just got to learn to navigate in different keys. And that's where the fun really begins, is where the rubber meets the road. When you actually start doing this in all the other keys and all the modes, and it's so beautiful. I've tested this, I've tested it with my students, and it works. Gareth, he did this. He was just killing it. All my students who learn this and stay persistent with it are killing it. But there's another video about your why and actually being a hero. You want to be a hero, which is it's a mindset video, which is another thing, which to really spend the time on this anyways, you should probably be a lead guitar player in a band. Otherwise, you're going to have no motivation to even do this, as if you're not a lead guitar player anyways. But after you have the 5 pentatonic, then you have the 7 minor major scale. And I just default back to the minor versus thinking of all the modes because they're the same thing. Tonic, relative, minor, find the touch points, which are those 3 chord tones using the 3, 5, 7. You got the 3 spots, then you use the pentatonic, which syncs to those 3. It's not 5, it's just 3 spots with those pentatonic, which is a 5-note scale, and then you sync the minor scale to those pentatonics as well to add more spice, because the 4th and the 7th of the major scale are a little bit more risky. The pentatonic are not as risky. And it also kind of depends on the style of music you're playing. And then later, if you start using major, minor, and dominant 7 chords, you can add in all 12 chromatic tones, but they're coming back to these 3 touch points. And that's the 3, 5, 7. And that, my friends, is the ACE system. I'm trying to see if I'm leaving everything out. Okay, I am leaving something out. So we're going to talk about that now. So we're going to talk about the ACE system a little more. So you have the formula, you have the framework, which is the 3, the 5, and the 7. And now you have, how do I say this? The principles. So you have repertoire, technique, and theory. And they're just like 3 buckets, really. And you can get plenty far with just focusing on repertoire and just learning songs and learning licks and riffs and creating your own with just that material. However, if you're a lead guitar player in particular, you're probably going to want to learn some of this technique stuff like scales and arpeggios, and just making sure you have better technique and improving and getting your technique. And sometimes you have to isolate those things. And having good technique is what's going to separate you and make you not a sloppy player, because you don't want to be a sloppy guitar player, because nobody's going to want to hear that. Maybe they will. I don't know. Kurt Cobain was pretty sloppy. And then you have the theory, which is how you actually connect the dots. And you can learn some of this unconsciously, like the band I'm in, the lead singer, he calls it the G form. And you just start to recognize certain chord progressions in certain keys, like G, C, D, E minor, A minor. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. But at some point, you probably, as a lead guitar player, you're not a big fan of using capos because you're playing solos. So you particularly have a reason and a motivation to learn the theory stuff. And in 2020, I taught myself how to play the piano, and I learned where all the chords are, the key changes are, and everything. So it was a very interesting journey for me to go and learn everything that I knew on guitar, and then take that and apply it to the piano, because I'd written 100 songs, and then I took those 100 songs and I relearned every single one of those songs on the piano. So I have a really good grasp of this stuff and this music theory, and I feel like a lot of the YouTube information online, they're trying to make it more complicated than it needs to be. It really doesn't need to be that complicated. It's really simple, guys. It's not easy, but it's super simple, and doing it is so much fun because it's creating music in real time. And again, I have another channel where I'm going to be doing episodes of me just going through this, making a song, using AI to produce it, and then just releasing it for the style of music, which is Japanese alternative pop music, or J-pop. I don't like calling it J-pop though, it's more J-rock. I think there's a J-rock genre. There is some J-rock, so yeah, I've got the country band I'm in, which I'm kind of like a hired gun, sort of, kind of, not really, because we've kind of connected. And then I've got my J-rock project, which is something I'm really passionate about. I took 1,200 songs from my phone, and I put those songs into Suno last year, and then I composed lyrics. I came up with titles for the songs, and I had AI help me with the lyrics, which is one of my weaknesses, is writing lyrics. But I taught myself how to sing and play the piano. Basically, all the songs that are produced in Suno or whatever. Because if you go to a producer, they're going to change them anyways. It's basically Suno's just like a real producer, real talk. I can learn those songs and I can learn to play them live and sing them. I'm doing that right now. I'm learning, but I have to learn how to speak Japanese, which is also going to be on my channel. I'm probably, more than likely, going to have different characters, and I'm going to be those different characters. I'm pretty sure there's other creators who have different characters that they play. And this is my English character. I haven't exactly figured out his personality, but he's very trustworthy. He's very trustworthy. I trust this guy. Anyways, that's basically the ACE system. If you are interested in more, I've got a free course, which you already mentioned, you can go check out. I'm also doing a sprint on September 4th if you want to train. If you want to be an Avenger, because they don't train alone. So you should not be training alone. And hopefully if you got anything from this video, is you're out there playing, you're writing your own songs, you're producing, you're putting yourself out there, you're going and doing it. Because in the other video I just made, like what helped me become a virtuoso guitar player was in all my failures and all the bands I was in. But I didn't quit because I had this fire inside, and I still have this fire inside because I did not want to have to live with regret that I didn't try to give my music everything I had. So if you're in that boat, you need a little bit of help, you need some feedback, you want to ask me some questions, that starts on September the 4th. The details are in the link below. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, like it. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe. And if you want to leave a comment, that really helps out the channel as well. You can leave a comment like, let's go with the fist pump. Or you can leave the chef if you want to, you're ready to start getting cooking, you know. Or if you want to, you can say framework. If you still can't find the course link, which it should be below, you can say the framework and I'll send you the link to the framework. Which is all in the course. I'm giving it all away for free. And then if you want to work with me and other guitar players who are trying to crush it, who have real dreams and real goals, that want to make this a part of their life and want to play live and want to release music and want to step into the arena, if you want to be one of those people, then the sprint's for you. If you're not, or maybe you are afraid, but if, you know, it's not for the faint of heart, you know, because it's like high expectations. This is not for if you're learning to play the C chord or the G chord. You know, you probably should have already done some song work if you want to do the sprint. And I'll just help you with the technique and the theory, which is probably what you've neglected and need to work on most. How do I know this? Because I've been teaching for a decade, and the players who come to see me who are like upper, beginner, intermediate, they skip the major scale, they skip the arpeggios, and they skip the theory. And I did too. So I can basically help shorten the path you need to go if you want true freedom on the fretboard. So that's it. See you in the next one. Go out there and make it happen.